The recent and widespread use of digital media and the internet has changed the way people consume and report news. By 2010, 59% of Americans reported using a combination of online and offline sources for news, with 75% saying they received news updates through social media sites like Facebook. Traditional news outlets like newspapers now have a huge online presence, augmented by news-based blogs and news aggregator sites like the Huffington Post. Reporters' privilege and shield laws provide legal protection for journalists who refuse to name the sources of confidential information because doing so would put the source's life or livelihood in danger. The enormous shift in news media culture has forced lawmakers to re-examine reporters' privilege, creating and revising shield laws to reflect modern journalism. To get a better perspective on the shift from traditional journalism to online journalism, I spoke with two veteran journalists, Josh Fite, the founder and editor of Publicola.net, and Alex Stonehill, co-founder and program director for the Common Language Project.
I'm Josh Fite, and I'm the founder and editor of Publicola, which is an online news site. We were the first online-only news. We're the first online news publication in state history to get privileges to cover the state legislature. The whole last 6 years or so that Publicola is a small part of, which is this online revolution, to use a fancy word or a histrionic word, changing the media landscape. It's just wonderfully exciting. You know, like, we live in a kind of historic time. There's a sense out there that online sites are lowering the standards of journalism. And part of Publicola's mission is to bring traditional standards of journalism to online journalism and raise the standards. So it's sort of the opposite. There are standards. I mean, not only ethical standards. I think there's like a practice of journalism and he's kind of doing one of the steps, one of the early steps, and he's kind of discovered, taken advantage of our modern era and shown how it actually can be, it dovetails with kind of the practice of, a part of the practice of journalism, and he can disseminate this information. But sure, like, is he kind of careless and like putting people in harm's way? Absolutely. And is that what you want to be doing when you're writing a news story? No.
My name is Alex Stonehill. I'm the program director for the Common Language Project. So I'm also a journalist, so that means I run all of our international reporting contributors and also do some international reporting myself. And it's kind of interesting, the bridge between print media and digital media there, because I can do that story for the Seattle Times, and when it comes out in the paper, it's like, you know, they're just not getting home delivery the Seattle Times in Baghdad, right? So you don't have as much to worry about there, but when it comes to online, suddenly it is this huge issue that's accessible all over the world. And so it's interesting, the case that we're dealing with right now, they want their names changed, but they don't care about their faces being shown, because basically the issue is, can somebody search for their name on Google and find out all this information about where they are? That's what's really interesting about this, is where does that definition, how do you define an established news gatherer? I don't have a press credential. I've never carried a press pass. I don't work for a legacy media institution. So, I mean, I'm not even sure that I would fall in that category. It's hard to know how you would define that. And with access to basically online publishing becoming so democratized, it's like, who doesn't? You know, who isn't kind of a journalist? Where does that line start? My opinion is that it's all about you're asking to be afforded these protections under the law as a journalist, and to be afforded those protections, you have to follow the ethical code of a journalist as well. And if you're not following that code, then you don't get the protection. So it's a give and take. I'm going to always in my reporting try to be objective or transparent, one of those two, and I'm going to follow certain ethical codes of journalism that make it so I think I deserve to have the protections of a journalist as well. But other people aren't following those things. So, and I'm not sure that the shield laws should apply to people who aren't. The idea of anonymity is something that's really kind of being abused right now. It's like when you go out to report a story, no matter what the story, people are just asking for anonymity left and right for all of the wrong reasons. The right reasons are because your life is in danger or your livelihood is in danger, and I think you have to have a pretty heavy hand in applying the second one, livelihood. I mean, we're talking about like losing your job, not being able to get another job, not just like my boss at Starbucks is going to get mad at me or something like that, right? But people, I see people, I think as they become more media savvy, people in the general public who become sources for stories will just they've heard about this thing of asking for anonymity now, and they're asking for it all the time when it's totally inappropriate.
In 2007, Washington State Governor Christine Gregoire signed a shield law on behalf of news gatherers from any entity that is in the regular business of news gathering and disseminating news or information to the public by any means, including but not limited to print, broadcast, photographic, mechanical, internet, or electronic distribution. Arguably, both Publicola and the Common Language Project would be protected under this shield law. Nationwide, shield laws vary state to state. Several states have comprehensive shield laws similar to Washington. Other states have shield laws with certain restrictions, such as the right to exempt journalists from protection if the source's information pertains to the state's safety and security. Still, other states have no shield law at all. A current example of the way digital media has affected reporters' privilege comes from New Jersey, where a blogger named Shelley Hale is fighting for legal protection against a company called Too Much Media, who provides internet analytics for pornography websites. Though not part of an established news media outlet, Hale had her own blog on which she reported the company's corruption from an inside source. Though a judge in 2009 ruled that she was not considered a journalist, she has appealed and now has the backing of the ACLU, which insists it is the news gathering and dissemination process, not a person's affiliation with a news organization, that defines whether that person is a journalist. There is no federal shield law. A law proposed in 2009 called the Free Flow of Information Act passed the House and garnered support from dozens of lobbyists, but no movement has been made since. The most recent controversy regarding a federal shield law deals with Julian Assange and WikiLeaks, whose divulging of classified information about the Afghanistan war inspired Senators Dianne Feinstein and Chuck Schumer to publicly announce the exclusion of WikiLeaks or any similar entity from any proposed federal shield law.
I do think WikiLeaks is on to part of the future here. And whether or not they get their wrists slapped doesn't ultimately make that much of a difference. So we can sit around, I can say, well, I've been a journalist for 20 years and Julian Assange is making a mockery. I can say that.
Digital media has made it possible for anyone with the technology to become a reporter, blurring the lines between established news media outlets and citizen journalism. As is common with cultural shifts as a result of new technology, legislation must play catch-up to complex developments. For more information on shield laws in the digital age, visit www.shieldlawsmcdm.blogspot.com.